The night was quiet on the lower levels of the orbital city of Luminara. The upper decks were bright and full of movement, but down here in the maintenance ring, the air was still. Metal walls hummed softly as the city rotated in orbit, holding millions of lives between stars. Captain Elias Wren liked it here. The silence helped him think. Elias was a man in his mid-30s, tall, with sharp eyes that had seen both war and peace. He used to be a soldier, but those days were behind him now. These days, he worked as an engineer, fixing the old systems that kept the city alive. He preferred wires to politics, machines to noise. Every night, he took the same walk through Corridor C19 just to clear his head. That was when he heard it. A soft sound. A breath. A woman's voice. Barely a whisper. "Help me." Elias stopped walking. The sound came from just around the bend, near one of the old maintenance doors that had been out of use for years. He took a step forward. His boots made a dull echo against the metal floor. "Hello?" he called out. "Is someone there?" There was no answer. Just a faint rustling sound. The kind of sound that made the hair on the back of his neck stand up. He walked closer. A figure stepped out of the shadows. It was a young woman, at least. She looked young. Her hair was tangled, her clothes a dull gray, the kind worn by transient workers who move from station to station. Her face was pale, her lips trembling. She was holding her stomach like she was in pain. Her knees were shaking. "Please," she whispered again. "Help me!" Elias rushed forward and caught her before she fell. Her body was cold, colder than it should have been. She was shaking, like someone caught in a freezing storm. "Hey, stay with me," Elias said. His voice was calm, steady. Years of emergency work had taught him how to keep control. "What happened to you?" She looked up at him. Her eyes were wide and frightened, not just of pain, but of something worse. "They're inside me," she whispered. Elias frowned. "Who's inside you?" She didn't answer. Her grip tightened on his arm. And that was when he saw it. A soft glow, faint, like the light of a firefly. It flickered beneath the fabric of her dress, near her ribs. At first, he thought it was just a reflection from one of the maintenance lights. But the glow wasn't steady. It pulsed, slowly, like a heartbeat. Elias looked around. No one else was there. The corridor was empty. "Can you walk?" he asked. She nodded weakly. He guided her into the nearest maintenance alcove. It was a small space with a bench, old tool cabinets, and a dim ceiling lamp. It wasn't meant for medical emergencies, but it was quiet and safe. Elias sat her down carefully. She was still shaking. Beads of sweat rolled down her forehead, even though the air here was cold. "I need to call for help," he said, reaching for his cum device. "No," she cried out suddenly. Her voice cracked like glass. She grabbed his hand with surprising strength. "No doctors." "No security, please. They can't know." Elias froze. There was real fear in her voice. Not the kind of fear that comes from pain. The kind that comes from being hunted. "Why?" he asked gently. She shook her head. "They'll take me. They'll take me back." Her eyes were wild now, like someone trapped in a nightmare. Elias slowly lowered his cum device. He didn't understand everything, but he understood enough. "She wasn't lying, all right," he said softly. "No calls. But you need help. You're not well." She leaned back against the wall, breathing fast. The glow under her dress grew brighter. Elias could see the fabric lift slightly, as if something moved beneath her skin. His mind tried to explain it some kind of injury, maybe an implant, but nothing made sense. "What is that?" he asked. She closed her eyes. "It's not mine," she whispered. Elias felt a chill crawl down his spine. The station had seen strange things before illegal experiments. Smugglers, off-grid technology, but this felt different. "This felt wrong. I need to look," he said. "I won't hurt you, I promise. But if something's inside you, we can't just sit here." She didn't answer at first. Then, slowly, she nodded. Elias moved closer. The glow was right below her ribs. He lifted the edge of the fabric carefully, trying to keep his hands steady. What he saw made his heart skip a beat. The light wasn't coming from a wound. It was coming from something embedded beneath her skin. Tiny, thin filaments, like silver threads, ran across her stomach. They shimmered and moved on their own, twisting gently like they were alive. The glow came from a small cluster near her ribs, where the threads seemed to pulse in rhythm. It didn't look human. It didn't even look like any machine he'd ever seen. Elias had seen combat drones, alien weapons, fusion cores, but this was nothing like that. It was elegant, silent, alive. What? What is this? He whispered. She opened her eyes. Tears rolled down her cheeks. It followed me, she said. It found me. Where? Elias asked. On the edge, she said. Near the gate, Elias frowned. The gate wasn't a place. It was a legend. An area beyond mapped space, where ships disappeared and strange signals were sometimes heard. Nobody who went near it ever came back. If she had been there, you were on a ship, Elias guessed. It found you there. She nodded weakly. Elias leaned back, his heart pounding. If what she was saying was true, then whatever was inside her came from beyond known space. Not from any human colony. Not from any Union ally. Something foreign. Something dangerous. But she wasn't the danger. She was terrified. Does it hurt? Elias asked. Yes, she whispered. All the time. But when I get scared, it listens. Listens. She nodded again. It's awake. Elias had no idea what that meant, but he understood one thing. She needed help. Real help. But calling the station medics wasn't an option. If the authorities got involved, she'd end up in a lab somewhere. People didn't come back from that. I'm Elias, he said, trying to calm her. What's your name? For a long moment, she didn't answer. Then she whispered, Lyra, listen to me. I'm going to help you. But I need to understand what this thing wants. Do you know? She shook her head. No, but it talks to me when I sleep. I see. Places. Not here. Not human. Elias didn't like that. Not one bit. He pulled a small handheld scanner from his belt. It was old, but good enough to pick up basic life signs and energy readings. He turned it on and aimed it at the glowing cluster beneath her skin. The scanner beeped once, then went silent. The screen went dark. Elias frowned and hit the reset. Nothing. Then the glow beneath her skin pulsed brighter once. Right. Twice. The scanner came back to life on its own, but the display was filled with symbols he didn't recognize. Lines and shapes that didn't belong to any human language. It's talking to your scanner, Elias said slowly. This thing can interface with technology, Lyra shivered. It talks to everything. The air in the small alcove felt colder now. Elias could hear the faint hum of the station's power lines above them. Everything suddenly felt too quiet. You said they'll take you back, Elias said carefully. Who's they? Her voice dropped to a whisper. The ones who made it. They're coming. A distant alarm echoed through the corridor. It wasn't loud, but Elias knew that sound. Docking alert. A ship had just arrived. They're here, Lyra whispered. Elias stood up, his soldier instincts waking up. He didn't know who was coming or what they wanted, but something told him this was only the beginning. The glow beneath Lyra's dress pulsed again faster this time. The filaments moved like they were reacting to something. Stay calm, Elias said, though his own hands were trembling slightly. I won't let anyone hurt you. But deep inside, he wasn't sure if he could keep that promise. Not against something like this. The maintenance door outside hissed softly, like pressure shifting in the corridor. Footsteps echoed faintly. Elias turned toward the sound, his pulse quickening. Someone was out there. He took one last look at Lyra. Her eyes were wide, glowing faintly now with the same soft light beneath her skin. She wasn't just a girl with something inside her. She was connected to it. Whatever it wasn't passive anymore, Elias, she whispered. It knows you now. His breath caught in his throat. The lights in the alcove flickered. The scanner on the floor buzzed. And then, from somewhere deep in the station, something answered the pulse. A sound not quite a sound rolled through the metal floor. A deep, low hum, like a giant heartbeat. The footsteps outside grew louder. Elias clenched his jaw. He didn't know what was coming, but he knew one thing for sure. His quiet nights were over. Elias stood between the door and Lyra. His body was tense, every muscle alert. Years of soldier training had taught him how to read danger, and right now, everything around him screamed danger. The footsteps outside were slow, controlled, like someone who knew exactly where they were going. Not security. Not station workers. Stay here. Elias whispered to Lyra. She clutched the edge of the bench, her face pale, her breathing uneven. The strange light beneath her skin pulsed faster. It's almost like it could feel the people coming closer. They're here, she whispered again. They always find me. Elias moved to the door. It was an old manual panel door used only for maintenance access. He leaned slightly against the wall and peered through the small crack. The corridor outside was dim, but he saw Shadow's 3 figures moving silently. They weren't wearing the standard gray of station security. Their suits were darker, smoother, and each carried a small wrist device that emitted a faint blue light. Elias didn't recognize their uniforms, and that worried him more than if they had been soldiers. Unknown uniforms were trouble. Lyra's glow brightened again. A soft humming sound filled the small room. Elias turned. Lyra, he said softly, you need to control it. I can't, she whispered. It reacts when they're near. What is it reacting to? They built it, she said, her voice cracking. They made it part of me. It listens to them. But it's changing now. Elias didn't fully understand what she meant, but he could feel something in the air, a faint vibration. It's like invisible static brushing against his skin. Whatever was inside her wasn't just alive. It was aware. The figures stopped outside the door. One of them placed a hand on the panel. A soft beep echoed. They're trying to open it, Elias said quietly. Lyra shook her head in panic. They'll take me back. I can't go back. Elias took a breath. He didn't have a weapon. All he had was a small engineering toolkit. But he had something more important, a plan. Listen to me carefully, he said. When the door opens, don't move. I'll handle it. But no, Elias cut her off gently. I promised I'd help you, and I don't break my promises. The lock on the door clicked. The panel slid open slowly. 3 strangers stepped inside. The leader was a tall woman with a silver visor covering her eyes. Her movements were smooth and precise. The 2 others followed silently, scanning the room with wrist devices. None of them spoke at first. They didn't have to. Their presence was enough. Elias stood in the middle of the alcove, arms crossed, pretending to be calm. This area is restricted, the woman said finally. Her voice was soft, too soft. What are you doing here? Elias gave a small, practiced smile. Fixing a power relay. What about you? The woman tilted her head slightly. She didn't smile back. Her visor reflected the glowing light coming from behind Elias Lyra's light. Step aside. Elias didn't move. She's hurt. She needs medical attention. She belongs to us, the woman replied calmly. She's a person, Elias said, not property. The woman didn't argue. She simply raised her wrist device. The glow from Lyra grew even stronger, reacting to it. She gasped in pain. The filaments beneath her skin moved wildly, like they were being pulled toward the device. Elias took a step forward. Stop that, the woman ignored him. We don't want to harm you, she said softly. Step away from the subject. Subject, Elias repeated, his voice sharp. She is carrying something that doesn't belong to her, the woman said. It's dangerous. Elias looked at Lyra. She was clutching her sides, trying to breathe. It's in her, he said. Not something she stole. That's irrelevant, the woman replied. We take her now, something in Elias snapped. He had spent his whole life watching people get pushed around by those with more power. He had left the military because he couldn't stand that anymore. And now it was happening again. Not happening, Elias said. The woman gave a small sigh. Very well. She made a small gesture with her hand. The 2 men behind her stepped forward. Elias stepped too, but, before anything else happened, The room changed. The lights flickered. The air hummed. And Lyra's glow exploded into a soft, blinding white. Everyone froze. The wrist devices on the men's arms went dead. Sparks flickered around the edges of their visors. Elias shielded his eyes. The woman stepped back, suddenly tense. "What is this?" One of the men shouted. Lyra opened her eyes. For the first time, Elias saw them clearly. They weren't just human eyes anymore. They glowed softly, like twin stars. "It's awake," Lyra whispered. The walls around them vibrated. A deep, low hum filled the corridor outside. The strangers exchanged nervous glances. The leader lowered her voice. "She's not stable. We have to contain her now." Elias stepped protectively in front of Lyra. He didn't know what awake meant, but he could tell they were scared of it. And if they were scared, that gave him an advantage. "You can't control it anymore," Lyra said suddenly. Her voice was different now, calmer, stronger. "It's not yours." The woman stiffened. "You don't understand what's inside you." "No," Lyra said softly, "you don't." The hum grew louder. The entire corridor outside shivered like metal under pressure. For a moment, the air smelled like ozone. Then something even stranger happened. The metal wall behind Lyra rippled, not broke, not bent, but rippled like liquid. A perfect circle appeared, glowing with the same soft white light inside her. The leader's visor flared red. "It's opening a gate," she shouted. Elias turned toward Lyra. Her hands were glowing now. She didn't look afraid anymore. She looked determined. "What is that?" Elias whispered. "Home," Lyra said. "Or something like it." The strangers moved fast. One of the men pulled out a small cube device and threw it toward her. But before it hit, the air around Lyra twisted. The cube slowed down, as if time itself bent. Then it fell to the ground harmlessly. The leader cursed under her breath. "The interface is active. She's bonded with it." Elias didn't know what any of that meant, but one thing was clear. Lyra wasn't just a victim. Whatever was inside her had chosen her. "Elias," she said, turning toward him. Her eyes glowed brighter. "You have to trust me. What are you going to do?" "Leave," she said. "Before it gets worse." "No chance," Elias said. "I'm not leaving you." For a second, something warm flashed across her face, gratitude. Then she reached out and touched his hand. A jolt ran through him, not painful, but powerful. For a moment, Elias could feel everything she felt, her fear, her loneliness, the strange voice inside her mind, and then he felt something else. A presence. Ancient. Watching, the woman lunged forward. But the gate behind Lyra pulsed again, throwing a wave of invisible force through the room. Everyone staggered. One of the strangers fell to his knees. Elias barely stayed standing. "This is bigger than you." The woman hissed at Elias. "You have no idea what you're dealing with." Elias stared at her. "Yeah," he said. "But neither do you." The gate expanded slowly, its glow reaching the ceiling. The hum was deep now, like a heartbeat that belonged to something vast and far away. Lyra's body relaxed. She looked at peace for the first time since he found her. But Elias saw something else too as she was getting weaker. The glow that filled the room was draining her strength. Her breaths grew slower. "Lyra," he said softly, "you can't do this alone." She shook her head. "It's not about me anymore. It's choosing." "Choosing what?" "Who it belongs to," she whispered. The leader pressed a button on her wrist device, but it sparked and died again. Whatever technology they had was useless now. Elias noticed fear in her movements. "Real fear," Elias, Lyra said again. "When it chooses, everything will change." He didn't know what she meant, but deep down he felt it too. The gate wasn't just a doorway. It was a message, a signal. The beginning, the strangers started to retreat. The leader gave him one last look, her calm mask cracking. "This isn't over," she said. Then they disappeared back into the corridor, their footsteps echoing down the metal hallway. The gate continued to pulse. Elias turned to Lyra. She was swaying now, exhausted, but she was smiling faintly. "It's listening to you now," she whispered. "It knows your name." Elias froze. "How?" Because you didn't run, she said softly. And it only chooses those who don't run. The hum faded a little. The glow around the gate dimmed slightly. For the first time since this began, the station felt still again. But Elias knew this was only the calm before something much bigger. Lyra's head fell back against the wall. She was breathing slowly but steady. The filaments beneath her skin glowed gently like a sleeping star. Elias sat down beside her. His mind was racing. He didn't know what was coming through that gate. He didn't know who they really were. But he knew one thing. The universe had just gotten a lot bigger, and it had chosen them to stand in the middle of it. The light of the gate pulsed softly, filling the small maintenance alcove with a warm glow. The shadows on the walls danced like slow-moving waves. Elias sat beside Lyra, listening to the hum. It wasn't a sound that came from machines. It was deeper, something that touched the bones. The strangers who had tried to take her were gone.
Ow.
But Elias knew they would return. People like that never gave up. They always believed they owned everything they touched. But now, for the first time, something was happening that wasn't in their control. Lyra leaned against the wall, breathing slowly. The strange filaments beneath her skin glimmered softly like starlight. She looked tired, but calm. "It's quiet now," she whispered. "For how long?" Elias asked. "Not long," she replied. "They'll come back. With more people, with more power?" Elias clenched his jaw. He had no weapon, no team, no plan. But what he did have was a choice. He could walk away and pretend none of this happened. Or he could stand his ground and protect her even if he didn't fully understand what he was fighting against. He looked at the gate again. It was a perfect circle of soft light hovering a few inches above the floor. It didn't make any noise except for that heartbeat-like hum. It was peaceful, but powerful. Elias felt like if he stared at it too long, he'd fall into something endless. "What is it?" he asked. "It's not a thing," Lyra whispered. "It's alive." Elias turned to her. "Alive?" "Yes. Not like us. Not like anything. It doesn't live in space. It is space." He frowned. "That makes no sense." She gave a tired smile. "I know. It didn't make sense to me either when it first found me." He leaned closer. "How did it find you?" Her eyes unfocused as she remembered. "I was working on a mining colony on the edge of Union space. It was quiet. Then one night, the sky changed. A light appeared, like a star falling, but it wasn't a star. It was a doorway. I thought it was a storm at first, but then it spoke. Not with words. With feelings. It didn't ask. It chose." Elias listened quietly. There was no fear in her voice now, just a strange calm. "Like she had accepted something a long time ago. It bonded with me," Lyra said softly. "And ever since, they've been chasing me. They want it. But it doesn't want them." Elias looked at the gate. "Why not?" "Because it doesn't trust them," she said. "But it trusts you." Elias blinked. "Me. I don't even understand what it is." "It doesn't need you to understand," she said. "It needs you to stand." He stared at her. That simple word hit deeper than he expected. Stand. He had done that before, in a dozen wars for people he didn't even know. Maybe this wasn't so different. Then he heard it. A distant rumble through the floor. Heavy boots. More footsteps. The strangers were coming back. This time, they wouldn't be 3. They'd bring more. Elias stood up. "They're here." Lyra closed her eyes. The glow beneath her skin grew stronger again, as if reacting to the danger. "We don't have to fight them," she whispered. "We just have to show it who we are." Elias didn't understand, but he trusted her. She wasn't just a frightened girl anymore. Something inside her had grown. Or maybe it had always been there, waiting for the right moment. The rumble grew louder. Then the distant hiss of a pressure door opening echoed down the corridor. "They're close," Elias said. Lyra nodded slowly. "Good. It's time." The gate pulsed once, then twice. Elias felt something touch his mind. A soft presence. It wasn't like a voice in his head. It was like a feeling, warm, curious, endless. He stepped closer to the gate. "What do you want from me?" He whispered. That the hum changed. It grew softer, warmer. He didn't hear words, but he felt the answer. It wasn't asking for control. It was asking for a bond. "It wants you to choose too," Lyra said, watching him. Elias took a deep breath. His life had been built on practical choices, engineering, logic, but nothing about this moment was logical. It was about trust. He stepped closer. The light from the gate wrapped around him like gentle wind. For a second, he saw something: stars he'd never seen, places beyond maps, colors that didn't exist in any sky. Then it was gone, and the hum settled in his chest like a heartbeat that wasn't his own. "You accepted it," Lyra whispered. Elias didn't know what exactly he had accepted, but he felt stronger, clearer, like the fear had thinned. The corridor lights flickered again. Shadows moved beyond the doorway. Then the strangers entered, 6 of them this time. All in dark suits, visors shining, devices glowing blue. The leader was the same woman as before. Her voice was colder now. "Step away from the gate." Elias stood his ground. "No," she didn't flinch. "You don't understand what that thing is. It's not a gift. It's a weapon." Lyra shook her head weakly. "It's not a weapon. You just want to make it one." The woman's visor shifted as if she was looking at both of them at once. "This power doesn't belong to either of you. Humanity can't be trusted with something like this." Elias raised an eyebrow. "And you can—" "We've been studying it for decades," the woman said calmly. "We know how dangerous it is. We know it must be contained." Elias took a step forward. "That's the problem. You keep trying to contain everything, control everything. But some things aren't meant to be locked away." The woman didn't argue. She raised her hand, signaling the others. They began to surround the alcove. Lyra tried to stand, but her legs were weak. Elias helped her up. The glow from her body grew brighter. "They can't hurt it," Lyra whispered. "But they can hurt you, and they'll have to try," Elias said. The leader frowned. "You're just one man." Elias gave a small, calm smile. "I'm human. That's usually enough." The gate pulsed again. This time, the light spread across the floor like ripples in water. The strangers froze. Their devices flickered. Their visors dimmed. "What is it doing?" one of them shouted. "It's responding to him," Lyra said softly. "It likes him." The leader stepped back. "This is impossible." "No," Elias said. "It's human." The hum grew louder now, filling every corner of the corridor. But it wasn't threatening. It was strong, steady, almost beautiful. It wasn't fighting them with violence. It was showing them something bigger than fear. The light rose higher, curling around Elias and Lyra like a shield. The strangers tried to move forward, but their steps slowed. Their devices failed. Their voices shook. "Stop this," the leader yelled. "It's not me," Elias said quietly. "It's making its choice." Lyra squeezed his hand. "It's choosing humanity." The gate brightened. For a heartbeat, everything stopped. The walls, the air, the sound of boots all frozen in a single breath. Elias felt something shift in the air. Something invisible but massive. And then, just as slowly, everything resumed but different. The leader fell to her knees, stunned. The strangers behind her dropped their devices, which no longer worked. The gate didn't close, but its light turned calm, soft. It's like a sunrise after a storm. Elias didn't fully understand what had happened, but he could feel it. The gate had bonded not with governments, not with soldiers, not with people who wanted power. It had bonded with humans themselves. Lyra leaned against him, weak but smiling. "It trusts us now." The leader slowly looked up at them. For the first time, her voice wasn't cold. It was small. "You have no idea what you've done." Elias met her gaze. "Maybe not, but we'll figure it out. That's what humans do." She lowered her head. There was nothing else she could do. The power she wanted was never hers to take. Outside, the sound of the station filled the air again. The hum of engines. The distant chatter of life. But something had changed. A presence had entered their world, and it wasn't here to conquer. It was here to choose. Elias helped Lyra to her feet. What happens now? She looked at the gate. Now, it's not just me anymore. It's us. The gate pulsed once more, softer than before. Elias felt its warmth like sunlight on his face. He realized then that this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. A beginning where humans didn't just survive among the stars. They mattered. They belonged.